The grotesque reality of Henry V. The hidden horrors of Henry V.'s health. To truly grasp the depths of Henry V.'s physical decline, one must first understand the sheer magnitude of his health issues in the latter part of his reign. By the time he reached his final years, Henry was not merely an overweight monarch, but a man whose body had become a living testament to the ravages of his lifestyle and choices. His health problems were as much a reflection of his personal habits as they were of the medical limitations of the era. Henry's obesity was extreme even by today's standards. His waistline was a staggering 54 inches, and his weight soared to around 400 pounds. In a time when the average man weighed about 140 pounds, Henry's size was not just a mark of wealth and power, but a severe health liability. The king's diet was rich in meats, sugars, and alcohol, far exceeding the nutritional norms of his contemporaries. This indulgence, coupled with a lack of exercise as he aged, contributed significantly to his deteriorating condition. The king's legs bore the brunt of this decline. They were afflicted by large, festering ulcers that never healed, emitting a stench so foul that it was said to precede him. These wounds were a source of constant pain and embarrassment. The sight and smell were so distressing that servants dreaded having to assist him, often resorting to drawing straws to determine who would endure the task. Perfumed handkerchiefs became a necessity for courtiers who needed to approach him, a small attempt to mask the overwhelming odor. The king's mechanical aids and daily struggles, Henry's immense size and debilitating health issues necessitated the use of mechanical aids, a fact often glossed over in historical narratives. These devices were not merely a matter of convenience but a necessity for a king whose body was failing him. The engineering of these aids was remarkably sophisticated for the time, incorporating pulleys and wheels to help him move about his palaces. These mechanical contraptions were a testament to the ingenuity of his staff, who found themselves tasked with maintaining the king's mobility and dignity. The social implications of these devices were profound. A king who needed such assistance was seen as vulnerable, his physical state a stark contradiction to the image of strength and power he wished to project. Yet, the presence of these aids was a closely guarded secret, with only those in his inner circle truly aware of the extent of his dependence upon them. The Justing accident and its aftermath. One pivotal moment in Henry's life that had far-reaching consequences was the Justing accident of 1536. This incident left him unconscious for 2 hours, a period during which he was feared dead. The head injury he sustained is now believed to have resulted in a traumatic brain injury, altering his personality in profound ways. Before the accident, Henry had been a charismatic and attractive young king, celebrated for his intellect and energy. Afterward, he became increasingly paranoid, irritable, and prone to fits of rage. Contemporaries noted a marked change in his behavior, describing him as more suspicious and tyrannical. Modern medical experts suggest that the injury may have affected his frontal lobe, a region of the brain responsible for controlling impulses and emotions. These changes likely contributed to his increasingly erratic and despotic rule, as well as his deteriorating relationships with those around him. Cushing syndrome and its historical implications. Another potential factor in Henry's health issues was Cushing syndrome, a condition caused by an excess of cortisol in the body. Symptoms of this disorder include weight gain, mood swings, and, notably, the development of painful skin ulcers. Henry's rapid weight gain and the persistence of his leg ulcers align closely with this diagnosis, providing a plausible explanation for many of his ailments. Historical evidence supporting this theory includes accounts of his mood swings and the physical symptoms he exhibited. If Henry did suffer from Cushing syndrome, it would have had significant implications for his health and behavior, exacerbating his existing issues and contributing to his volatile temperament. This condition would have been unknown to his physicians, who lacked the medical knowledge and tools to properly diagnose or treat such an ailment. The terrifying climate of fear among Henry's physicians, the atmosphere of fear that permeated Henry VIII and his court extended to his physicians, who faced the unenviable task of managing the health of a king who brooked no criticism. To suggest that Henry might be seriously ill or to criticize his health was tantamount to treason, a charge that carried the risk of execution. This climate of fear stifled honest medical discourse, leading to a dangerous silence around the king's deteriorating condition. Physicians had to navigate a precarious balance, attempting to treat the king while avoiding any implication that he was less than the omnipotent ruler he believed himself to be. This fear was not unfounded, as Henry's temper was notorious and his capacity for retribution swift and severe. The broader implications of this atmosphere were significant, affecting not only medical practice at the time, but also the overall culture of the court. Psychological torture of Henry's wives. While the physical executions of two of Henry's wives are well known, the psychological torment they endured is often overlooked. Anne Boleyn, for instance, was subjected to an elaborate and humiliating frame-up orchestrated by Henry himself. Accusations of adultery were fabricated, with confessions extracted under duress from her supposed lovers, including her own brother. This was a calculated move by Henry, designed to break her spirit before her execution. The dynamics of power and control in Henry's marriages were complex and deeply rooted in psychological manipulation. His wives lived under constant scrutiny, aware that their very survival depended on their ability to navigate the treacherous waters of court politics. The emotional toll of such an existence was immense, leaving scars that went far beyond the physical. The explosive end, Henry's death and legacy. Henry VII's death was as dramatic as his life, marked by the infamous incident of his exploding coffin. The king's body, bloated and decomposing, ruptured the wooden coffin during his funeral procession. This grotesque event was a fitting end to a reign characterized by excess and brutality. The immediate aftermath of his death was a period of uncertainty, as his legacy was assessed and his successors sought to distance themselves from the more tyrannical aspects of his rule. Over time, Henry's reputation has been shaped by both his achievements, such as the establishment of the Church of England, and his notorious personal life. His health and actions have left an indelible mark on history, influencing perceptions of monarchy and power for generations to come. Comparative analysis. Henry V and fictional tyrants. In comparing Henry V to fictional tyrants like those in Game of Thrones, one finds striking parallels. His life and reign were filled with intrigue, betrayal, and brutality, often surpassing the fictional narratives in complexity and horror. Henry's actions have served as inspiration for countless portrayals of tyranny in literature and media, highlighting the enduring fascination with his character. The real Henry VIII was a figure of contradictions, a man whose personal failings were as significant as his political achievements. His legacy continues to captivate and horrify, a testament to the enduring power of his story. Through this exploration of Henry's life, we gain a deeper understanding of the man behind the myth, a king whose reign was as tumultuous as it was transformative. As we delve further into his story, we uncover the layers of history that have shaped our perception of one of England's most infamous rulers. Chapter 20. The tyranny of fear and excess, the psychological manipulation of Henry VI's wives. In the glittering halls of the Tudor court, beneath the opulence and grandeur, lay a dark undercurrent of manipulation and fear. Henry V, a king known for his charm and charisma, wielded his power not only through political means, but also through the emotional manipulation of his wives. This psychological tyranny was a hallmark of his volatile reign, leaving indelible scars on those who dared to marry him. Henry's relationships with his wives were fraught with a cycle of affection and intimidation. One moment he showered them with gifts, tokens of his favor meant to ensnare and captivate. The next, he wielded threats and isolation like a weapon, cutting them off from the world and those they loved. Catherine of Aragon, his first wife, experienced this firsthand. Once the beloved queen, she found herself cast aside, her marriage annulled, and her daughter Mary torn from her arms. As Henry spread rumors of her mental instability, Catherine lived her final years in isolation, writing letters to a husband who never deigned to read them. Her death, shrouded in suspicion, left many to wonder if she had been poisoned, a victim of the very paranoia that haunted Henry's court. Catherine Howard, a mere teenager when she married Henry, faced a fate that was both cruel and unprecedented. Her past relationships, brought to light by Henry's spies, led to her downfall. In a fit of rage, Henry enacted a law that made it treasonous for anyone to marry the king without declaring their sexual history. This law, born out of personal vendetta, reshaped the legal landscape of England, placing the king's whims above the lives of his subjects. Catherine's execution was swift, her cries for mercy drowned by the roar of the crowd, a chilling reminder of the perilous tightrope that Henry's wives were forced to walk. Catherine Howard and the treasonous virginity law. The tragedy of Catherine Howard serves as a stark illustration of how deeply personal grievances could manifest in public policy under Henry's rule. The Treason Act, drafted in the wake of Catherine's so-called betrayal, was a draconian measure that placed the king's personal insecurities above the law. This act was not merely a legal document, but a manifestation of Henry's obsession with control and purity, a reflection of his desperation to protect his throne from perceived threats. Catherine's past was laid bare before the court, her youthful indiscretions used as evidence of treason. In a society where a woman's value was often tied to her chastity, the implications of such a law were profound. It placed women in an impossible position, forcing them to navigate the treacherous waters of royal marriage with their lives hanging in the balance. Catherine's execution was not just a personal tragedy, but a grim milestone in the history of English law, showing how deeply intertwined personal vendettas and legal precedents could become. The tragic fate of Henry's other wives. The stories of Henry's other wives, while unique in their circumstances, share a common thread of fear and desperation. Anne of Cleves, the so-called Flanders mare, found herself the victim of Henry's capricious nature. Their marriage, annulled on the grounds of non-consummation, was a testament to Anne's resilience and cunning. Faced with the possibility of execution, she agreed to the annulment and lived the rest of her days in relative comfort, a rare instance of survival in Henry's perilous court. Jane Seymour, often considered the lucky wife, died of natural causes after giving birth to Henry's long-desired male heir, Edward. Yet even in her death, she was not spared from Henry's insensitivity. Barely 9 days after Jane's funeral, Henry was already courting his next wife, a chilling reminder of his view of wives as mere vessels for his ambitions. These women, bound by circumstance and fate, navigated a world where their personal agency was severely limited. Divorce was not an option, and any attempt to escape or resist was met with swift and brutal retribution. Their lives, marked by fear and uncertainty, underscore the harsh realities of being a queen in Henry's court, where the whim of a king could mean the difference between life and death. Henry V. Feltry's culinary excess and rituals, beyond the manipulation of his wives, Henry V's reign was marked by a different kind of excess, one that played out at the dining table. His culinary habits were legendary, a spectacle of indulgence that mirrored the opulence of his court. Henry's meals were grand affairs, each one a theatrical performance designed to showcase his wealth and power. The sheer volume of food consumed by Henry was staggering. A typical meal might include entire roasted animals, mountains of bread, and copious amounts of wine. The royal kitchens, a bustling hive of activity, employed hundreds of workers tasked with preparing over 800 dishes daily. Such extravagance was not merely about sustenance, but a demonstration of Henry's status as a king who could command the bounty of the land at will. Yet beneath the surface of this culinary theater lay an obsession with the supposed magical properties of certain foods. Henry believed that consuming specific dishes could endow him with desirable traits, such as grace from swan or virility from oysters. This belief, rooted in medieval superstition, fueled a dietary regimen that was as bizarre as it was excessive. Henry's obsession with foods, magical properties. Henry's fascination with the mystical attributes of food was part of a broader cultural context that saw food as a source of power and healing. In an era where the line between superstition and science was often blurred, it was not uncommon for individuals to attribute magical properties to their diet. For Henry, this belief was intertwined with his identity as a king, a sovereign who sought to enhance his prowess through the bounty of his table. Foods like venison and swan were not merely meals but talismans of power, consumed in the hope of absorbing their essence. This obsession with food's transformative potential was indicative of Henry's broader attempt to control every aspect of his life, from his body to his court. Yet, as with many of his pursuits, this desire for control often bordered on the absurd, leading to a life of excess that ultimately contributed to his physical decline. The role of fear and paranoia in Henry's court was a place where fear and paranoia permeated every aspect of life. His obsession with security, particularly regarding his food, was reflective of a deeper anxiety that plagued his reign. Every meal was a calculated risk, with tasters employed to sample each dish before it reached the king's lips. This ritual, born out of fear of poisoning, was a daily reminder of the threats, both real and imagined, that lurked within the palace walls. The presence of food tasters, waiting nervously to see if they would succumb to delayed poisons, underscored the atmosphere of suspicion that defined Henry's court. This constant vigilance extended beyond the dining table, influencing the very fabric of court life. Nobles and servants alike navigated a world where alliances could shift overnight, and the king's favor was as fleeting as it was dangerous. Henry's paranoia, while perhaps justified given the turbulent political landscape of the time, cast a long shadow over his reign. It fostered a culture of mistrust and intrigue, where betrayal was a constant specter and loyalty was measured in terms of survival. For those who lived under his rule, the court was both a place of opportunity and a crucible of fear, where the stakes were nothing less than life and death. The aftermath of Henry's marriages, social and legal repercussions. The legacy of Henry VI's tumultuous marriages extended far beyond the lives of his queens, shaping English society and law for generations to come. His personal life, with its dramatic twists and turns, set precedents that influenced the marital policies of future monarchs and the legal framework of England itself. Henry's marriages, marked by annulments and executions, challenged traditional notions of marriage and divorce. His break with the Catholic Church over his desire to annul his marriage to Catherine of Aragon led to the establishment of the Church of England, a seismic shift that redefined the religious landscape of the nation. This act of defiance against papal authority set England on a path of religious reformation, with consequences that echoed throughout Europe. In the legal realm, the laws enacted during Henry's reign, particularly those concerning treason and marriage, reflected his personal insecurities and desires. These laws, while initially intended to serve his interests, laid the groundwork for future legal developments, influencing the way marriage and loyalty were perceived in the context of the monarchy. The social impact of Henry's reign was equally profound. His treatment of his wives and the subsequent legal changes highlighted the precarious position of women in Tudor society, where their fate was often tied to the whims of powerful men. The stories of Henry's queens, with their tragic ends and fleeting triumphs, remain a testament to the enduring struggle for agency and autonomy in a world governed by fear and power. As we conclude this exploration of Henry VI's reign, we are left with a complex portrait of a king whose life was defined by excess and paranoia. His legacy, both as a monarch and a man, continues to resonate, offering a cautionary tale of the dangers of unchecked power and the enduring human capacity for resilience and survival.